Eldena Abbey, originally Hilda Abbey, is a former Cistercian monastery near the present town of Greifswald in Mecklenburg-Vorpommern, Germany. Only ruins survive, which are well known as a frequent subject of Caspar David Friedrich's paintings, including the famous Abtei Eichwald. History. Monastery. In the 12th century, the Baltic coast south of the island of Rügen belonged to the Rani Principality of Rügen, which in its turn was subject to the Danes. The Danish Cistercian monastery, Eldena Abbey, was thus able to found a daughter house in the area, Eldena Abbey, at Rügen, west of Demmin, in 1172. When in 1198 this monastery was destroyed in fighting between Denmark and Brandenburg, Jeremiah, Prince of the Rani, whose wife was of the Danish royal house, offered to resettle the monks at a new site at the mouth of the River Reich, close to the boundary between the territory of the princes of Rügen and the county of Gützkow. Since the early 1120s subordinate to the Duchy of Pomerania, the offer of the site, which included profitable salt pans, was accepted, and in 1199 Hilda Abbey, now Eldena Abbey, was founded, and confirmed by Pope Innocent III in 1204. The princes of Rügen further endowed the new monastery with extensive lands in the border country, between the Rügen-owned territories of Gristow and Wostros, the area of Lositz which was debated between Rügen and Mecklenburg, and the county of Gützkow. The monastery became wealthy from the salt trade and was very influential in the Christianization of western Pomerania. It also brought about the foundation at the beginning of the 13th century of the town of Greifswald, which started out as the monastery's trading settlement opposite the salt pans, near the point where the Via Regia, an important trade route, crossed the river. After the Battle of Bornhoft in 1227 the Danes withdrew from this part of the former territories, and despite some competition from the princes of Rügen, the Duke of Pomerania, Władysław III, was able in 1248-49 to pressurize the abbey into sub-infeudating Greifswald to him. Władysław was later buried in Eldena Abbey, as were later members of the ducal family, the House of Pomerania. Throughout the 13th century, Eldena Abbey organized the cultivation and settlement of its growing estates in the Aussiedlung process, allocating and founding Wendish, Danish and German villages. In the growing town of Greifswald, however, the Cistercians of Eldena lost much of their influence. The foundation in the town in the mid-13th century of friaries of the Franciscans and the Dominicans. The east end of the abbey church was built in about 1200, while the conventual buildings date from the mid-13th and 14th centuries, all in brick Gothic. The final stages of construction were the west front and the nave of the church, which were completed in the 15th century. Dissolution and later history. The abbey was dissolved in 1535, when the Reformation was introduced into Pomerania by Duke Philip I, who took over its estates. The buildings were severely damaged during the 30 Years' War. In 1634 the site was given to the University of Greifswald. The buildings fell into dereliction during the Swedish occupation of western Pomerania, and the bricks were quarried for the building of fortifications. By the beginning of the 19th century, when the Romantic painter Caspar David Friedrich knew the abbey, it was a ruin, which he made the subject of several paintings. Renewed public interest led to the beginning of restoration work in 1828, and on the basis of designs by the Prussian landscape gardener Peter Joseph Lenne, a park was laid out on the abbey precinct. In 1920 1926-27 scientific excavations were carried out in order to reconstruct the exact layout of the site. In the 1960s, further work was carried out to make the site suitable for use for public and cultural events. Still more works were authorized from 1996 onwards jointly by both the State Office for the Preservation of Historical Monuments and the town of Greifswald, which eventually led to the declaration of the ruins as a cultural site of the Euro-region Pomerania. List of abbots: Lewinius 1193–1207, Sweno I 1207–1215, Johannes I 1234–1241, Andreas 1241, Sweno II 1249–1254, Christian 1256, Reginus 1265, Rudolf 1270–1274, Johannes II 1275–1290, Hermann I 1293, Nicolaus I Witt 1294–1295, Heinrich I 1297–1303, Jacob Stumpel 1304–1306, Heinrich II 1306–1309, Robert 1319, Johannes III of Hagen c. 1325, Arnold of Lübeck c. 1329, Gerhard I 1335, Heinrich III 1337, Gerhard II 1341, Martin 1347–1367, Johannes IV Rotemund 1369, Johannes V 1369–1388, Johannes VI 1392–1415, Nicolaus II 1415–1434, Hartwig 1436–1447, Everhard 1448–1452, Sabelus Kruffer 1455–1456, Theodoric 1458, Hermann II 1459–1470, Johannes VII 1470–1473, Nicolaus III 1473–1486, Gregorius Groper 1486–1490, Lambert van Werle 1490–1499, Matthias 1499–1510, Invaldus Schinkel 1510–1535.